Is a spouse better than a paramour? The story today shares a similar theme. Enjoy it, beloved Jeff. By the time you peruse this note, I will have gone. I recognize it appears senseless to pen you a farewell note, yet I foresee an awful dispute that I genuinely wish to avoid. Accuse me of cowardice if you must, but the distress I know I will cause you is more than I can bear. You see, I have grown fatigued. I'm tired of enduring the same existence we've had for the past 28 years, plus the 4 years we were together in college. I'm weary of you discerning my thoughts and finishing my sentences, though I cherish it when you soothe my neck or my legs in that special manner. I merely know that you'll respond just right by the manner I breathe or the way I collapse into a chair or bed, and it's beginning to disturb me. It feels as though I don't even have my own thoughts, and it's alarming. I'm also exhausted from our uninspired intimate life. I am aware that's the comment you're likely to overlook. I acknowledge that 98% of the time I rebuffed your advances and avoided closeness until I felt ready on my own terms. You must understand that the knowledge of your desire for me thrills me, and I delight in dangling on the edge of intimacy for a few days before finding solace and release. I know you longed to be more adventurous, but I have always seen you as the father of our children, and the notion of us becoming experimental in our intimate life just feels inappropriate. You must remain a respectable, traditional man, and that's why I never entertained your adventurous desires, though you fervently fulfilled all my intimate needs. I realize this all appears hypocritical and selfish because it is, and that's why I'm leaving. I crave the excitement of the chase, the allure of a new lover, and you can no longer fulfill that role. You were so charming when we were young, strumming the guitar with Buddy in the band, riding your Harley in that sleek leather jacket, your blonde hair fluttering in the breeze, charming me on the dance floor, whether it was a rock and roll venue or a ballroom. You always created such beautiful scenes of me and the children. But we aged and settled into how we treated each other. The rock band gigs have stopped so you could lead the football team. The Harley now rests in the garage, concealed under the children's sports gear in front of the minivan, and my niece simply can't endure on the dance floor. Yet you still possess such splendid hair. Now the children are adults, and I'm not satisfied with the minivan lifestyle you seem to have adopted. I assure you I have not been unfaithful, and you remain the only man I have ever been intimate with at night. Nonetheless, I have encountered men who fascinate me, and before I began an affair, I deemed it better to separate from you. The thought of dishonoring you in secret was unbearable, Jeff. I have always cherished you too deeply for that. Our paths are sure to intersect again, but I never wished to discuss this matter with you. I consulted with Sam and requested him to manage our divorce proceedings. He completed the documents, bequeathing you everything except my garments and personal belongings, which I collected today. I even left you half of my pension and assumed responsibility for half of our debt payments, except the mortgage. It's only equitable, and I aspire to be at least equitable. Please weep privately, so that when we convene at children's gatherings, we may still prevent causing a commotion. Yet fairness is fairness, so if you choose to reply in a letter, I vow to read each word and appreciate your concluding sentiments. Love, Ellen. I perused it repeatedly, motionless in the kitchen where I had found it. No tears had fallen, yet I was too astounded. There was no outcry of dissatisfaction, no sign of a yearning for more, no struggle, no hint of another man in her life. We connected, we kissed, we smiled, we performed the small acts that two individuals intend to do as they grow old together. Indeed, I have spent the last year attempting to charm her, endeavoring to rekindle our romance now that our youngest has permanently departed home after completing university. I purchased jewelry, yet she advised it was too expensive and she would prefer chocolate. I relinquished control of the evening to her after she expressed that my expressions of affection were overwhelming her. She also remarked that it was helpful for us to hold hands. I interpreted this as a subtle indication. Initially, I assumed her slower pace was due to recent changes in her life, yet I found myself as the last to become aware of them. I simultaneously grabbed a beer and took a shower. Having finished my beer, I grabbed another pair and returned to the shower. No one was there to scold me for dripping water all over her floor. My goal was to consume all my alcoholic reserves, including the wine from the basement. I indeed made a considerable depletion of my supplies. The following morning, I awoke with a severe headache on my basement floor, devoid of any clothing from my shower. I ascended the stairs, vomited all my consumed food, crawled into bed, and cried. At 11 years old, during the period of my grandmother's death, my grandfather pulled me aside during the wake and funeral, providing me extensive guidance. He taught me about the 3-day period of mourning allotted when someone dies. According to him, God resurrected in 3 days, and likewise you should renew your life. He advised crying, yelling, breaking things as you grow older. You might drink, engage in a real bar fight, pray, make the most of these days, then halt and resume your normal life, honoring the deceased by progressing forward. A man doesn't linger on his lost past, he lives in the present he creates and the future he advances towards. My grandfather was wise. I perceived that my wife's decision has wrecked our marriage. I cried intensely, became numb with alcohol, punched the drywall until my hands were bleeding, and used furniture or any available objects to continue the destruction. I screamed, kicked, drank, and ate very little, yet justified that beer was merely grain, yeast and water essentially bread, and wine was fruit. These were my liquid sustenance. It was summer. She had strategically chosen to wait until the academic year concluded to depart astute timing. I awakened on Tuesday following the Friday she declared her decision and moved past my mourning. Initially, I called my children to explain her decision, and they attempted fervently to reach me. Though too drunk to answer, I reassured them that I was all right. I cleaned the house and then contacted my preferred charity to collect a truckload of donations. I resolved to discard any remnants of the failed marriage, saving only the family heirlooms. I packed away photographs and albums, which my children were welcome to. I treated all other keepsakes in a similar manner, discarding the nonsensical trinkets she had accumulated that I never valued. Why should I concern myself with Spanish pottery or the coppercats we acquired in Portugal? Subsequently, I spent several days at Home Depot, purchasing new flooring, carpeting, paint, and yes, new drywall. Now, I was determined to transform this house into my home. The pink coral walls and frilly curtains were removed. I stopped by Sam's and signed the paperwork. He mentioned that, since our divorce was uncontested with only one lawyer involved, it would likely be finalized around the time school resumed. I sold the minivan and drove to a small dealership in a back alley downtown. I returned in a 1976 Triumph Spitfire convertible, a car I had always desired, painted British racing green with beige leather upholstery and chrome alloy wheels. I also took out the Harley, which was easy after clearing the garage of all the old and used clutter. Yet, my most impactful decision was to phone Buddy. This call transformed my life as quickly as my wife's letter had just a few days prior. Half an hour after informing them of what occurred, Buddy and the boys showed up at my home. Buddy has been my closest friend since 3rd grade. We formed our group, played ball, attended the same classes, and met twice at weddings. He was the best man at my wedding, and I was at his. He viewed the end of my marriage as a disaster and refused to let me confront it alone. Our band stopped performing years ago as life got in the way, yet our friendships have endured. Upon encountering Buddy and the fellows, numerous men were present. We've performed at weddings, social gatherings, and outdoor feasts for a large audience. We often perform for minimal or no compensation, enjoying the admiration of female followers who consistently attend our performances. Goodwill breeds goodwill, and once it was known that I had stripped my residence with plans to make it my dwelling, a wave of goodwill flooded in. Over the next fortnight, painters, carpenters, masons, plumbers, and various artisans repaired much beyond merely my walls. Within a month, my residence was unrecognizable. It underwent a complete transformation both internally and externally. The interesting aspect of a male group is that they are often accompanied by women. Their spouses and partners came to view Jeff's place and soon began introducing their unattached friends to enrich Jeff's love life. The matchmaking was subtle, not rushed, yet it clearly set a foundation, and soon I was reveling in and celebrating gatherings 2 to 3 nights weekly. My home became the site of impromptu barbecues and gatherings, always surrounded by friends, though I hesitated to pursue new relationships until my divorce was finalized. Buddy suggested reassembling the band. He had even already played at clubs owned by longtime acquaintances. Even before the new paint set, Buddy and I launched our return at Jimmy's, claiming Friday nights. He arranged performances for us on Saturdays at a local dance venue and Sundays at a well-liked seafood eatery near the water. Our music sounded as though we'd never taken a break. We've reached stages in life where our children have either moved on or need us less. We all looked well, maintaining our natural hair, except for Ronnie, our drummer. Our chemistry was undeniable, and our audience was ecstatic to see us return from hiatus. My sons visited as often as possible, assisting with renovations and sometimes playing in the band. I made it clear they were not to share details about me with their mother, instructing them to be truthful if she asked. Dad was deeply affected, yet he was getting by, and all was well. My daughter, residing in Australia with her fiancé, received the same instructions. My children were understanding and respectful of my wishes, and I trusted them to keep their word. They confirmed their honesty when they reported that Ellen had not been updated about my situation. I also tackled loneliness by fostering wholesome habits, improving my diet, and increasing my physical activity. I never let myself become unfit, but now I swam vigorously in the pool and made sure to run and cycle every evening, even before gigs. I transformed my home, social life, schedule, relations with my children, and my health within a month of Ellen's departure. I think it's time to reply to her letter. She initiated it, after all. Dear Ellen, thank you. You were right. Goodbye, Jeff. I sent her a succinct email. It conveyed everything necessary. I didn't have her new address and didn't particularly need it. Someone tried to inform me that she was seen with a charismatic young man about my daughter's age who drove an expensive car and was notably sociable. They were seen together at the shore, in clubs, and on the beach. Whenever someone brought her up, I politely stated my disinterest in hearing it, but we shared many mutual friends, and these snippets gradually merged to portray an intense autumn romance. It might have been in September or October, it didn't matter to me. I sincerely wished her well. Grandpa's 3-day rule urged me to move on, and I was too fond of my new self to dwell on past recollections. That concluded the summer, a poignant yet authentic part of a teacher's life, but August remained a lively time for a musician. This year was no exception. My buddy and I entered one festival after another until September. On Labor Day, we performed 2 to 3 times a day. Due to my packed schedule, I hadn't looked at her email response. I hadn't ignored it. I just assumed we'd exchange a single letter and continue forward. That seemed to be her intent, right? I was simply too busy and enjoying myself too much to check my emails. In fact, I had nearly forgotten about my marital issues when Sam notified me that our divorce was advancing quickly. Unexpectedly, a court clerk at the family law division, who appreciated a particular music group, expedited the process. By Friday, I was anticipated to regain my single status, just 1.5 months after this significant shift commenced. On Friday, I would revert to being single. During our performance at an arts festival street fair downtown, numerous appealing women in skimpy skirts and revealing tops suddenly appeared more approachable. As we began our performance, a crowd assembled in the street. We increased the amplifier volume to concert levels and showcased our powerful blues-infused music. Our set included cover songs, original pieces, and impromptu musical sessions, all of which the audience thoroughly enjoyed. The guys dug up our ancient master recordings. Previously, we hadn't managed to release an album before starting our families, but now we possessed sufficient material for a few improvised albums. Creating CDs was easier than producing vinyl records, and we merged older and newer songs. The sales booth saw considerable activity. Women of various ages cast glances my way, seemingly keen to conclude my period. Without romance, I failed to spot Ellen among the spectators. I overlooked her attempt to get backstage since I had placed my guitar on the back rack of my bike, which I had fitted years earlier specifically for transporting my guitar. I didn't notice her running towards me when Michelle, a 30-year-old attractive blonde, hopped on the back of my bike. I was unaware of her disappointment upon realizing that for the first time in my 25-year-old Harley's existence, another woman occupied her spot as I rode off. Her tears went unnoticed by me, which was unfortunate. Michelle was remarkable. I will refrain from detailing how I buried my face in her ample cleavage or how she skillfully captivated me, and the splendid feeling she provided. Suffice to say, I chased her the entire night, fueled with youthful energy, feeling on top of the world. By night's end, I was completely exhausted. She reminisced about our time together, but suggested we refrain from future contact. She likely pondered how long it would take her to recover and walk normally once more. I realized I couldn't dodge Ellen forever, and indeed I did not. The next encounter with Ellen occurred during our usual Friday night gig at Jimmy's. She entered accompanied by her new boyfriend and another young couple. They settled at a table and ordered beers. Upon seeing her, I signaled the band to deviate from our planned playlist. We traditionally played an American classic whenever we spotted an ex-girlfriend in the audience, and the affected band member immediately took over the vocals. We strongly held that a girl who ended things with one of us wasn't suitable for any, and none crossed the line to date an ex-girlfriend. I commenced playing in a slower style made famous by Lenny Kravitz. I never enjoyed that song more than when I sang it passionately. The guitar solos were mesmerizing and truly captivated the crowd. I missed Ellen's crestfallen expression when she recognized we were performing that particular song for her, but Buddy's wife noticed. She later informed me that Ellen's eyes filled with tears as I sang "Stay Away From Me" and "Come On Leave Me Alone," and she cried through "Don't Knock on My Door." "I don't want to see your face anymore." She left midway through the song, struggling to maintain her composure. Her toy boy and his acquaintances and their girlfriends didn't leave but stayed on, enjoying drinks and dancing. It appeared there was some unrest in their paradise. A week later, my eldest son paid me a visit. It turned out that Ellen and her young partner had argued that night. He had grown tired of her charm, and she was drained from attempting to match the energy level of a 20-year-old. He was frustrated that she was limiting his social life by avoiding places where our band played. As rumors of our band's revival spread, the venues we performed at became fashionable and crowded. He was notably irritated that she had given up her property rights during the divorce. It seemed he had intentions to move into my home. I suspected he was interested in her finances, but what could I do? He was unaware of our prenuptial agreement, which stated that if either spouse left the marriage for better prospects, they would depart with nothing. The spouse remaining would keep the house, money, furniture, accumulated wealth, and other assets acquired during their union, irrespective of the marriage's length. This was her father's idea, as he was skeptical of any man's motives towards his daughter. I had no intention of harming her, so I would have signed anything. Evidently, Ellen was aware of this, which probably explains her quick agreement to all terms and acceptance of the divorce conditions, where she ended up losing everything. Her younger lover ended their relationship, and her last evening was spent crying while she spoke to her children over the phone. I truly felt for her, yet remember that I had spent 3 days mourning my own marriage and had since moved past my concerns for her. The children, dissatisfied with my view, thought I was still available and argued that I should get back together with their mother to help her recover. I resisted, aware that to take her back would mean enduring her frequent mood swings, which were inevitable. The usual difficulties of menopause she had mentioned before our separation were challenging enough without the added weight of her feelings of rejection by her younger lover, the humiliation of seeking my help, and the possible regret of having left me. I did not wish to take on these additional stresses. I started to eat better, maintain a simpler, cleaner lifestyle in a pristine home, relish my retirement as a respected teacher, mingle with my band and perform duets at concerts with Buddy. My social circle was more active than ever. Many women dream of being with a popular, single musician. I could not imagine bringing another woman home, only to have her encounter my ex-wife in the living room, watching TV and consuming ice cream with candy on top. No, I had never liked being single in my youth, and I had no plans to change that part of my life. Over time, the kids relaxed their stance, permitting her to assist. I accommodated by allowing them to retrieve items from the storage unit I had rented for furniture and possessions too valuable to throw away. When Ellen eventually rented a small apartment, I even lent them the truck our band used for hauling gear from gig to gig. With the school year in progress and the band's busy schedule, I rarely saw Ellen. Although she worked close by at a different school, our paths seldom crossed, and I scarcely noticed her. I became a hot topic, perhaps because of my frequent rides on my favorite motorcycles or sports car, possibly because of my increased participation in school events, or maybe because of my status as a free bachelor. Rumors did not bother me. The band was extremely successful, my barbecues were famous for being fun, and I was never short of female company. Happy and fulfilled, I barely missed domestic life. I went to France for Thanksgiving, fulfilling a long-standing dream to be there for the release of Beaujolais Nouveau. While preparing for my trip, I was surprised when my son called the night before I was to leave, inviting me to Ellen's Thanksgiving dinner. He was very upset when he heard about my other plans and quickly demanded a family Christmas organized by him and his girlfriend, with me simply providing the venue. He mentioned that all 3 of my children would be coming, eager to recreate memories of their youth. I consented on the condition that Ellen knew she should not bring a date, and in exchange I would focus on the children. I was genuinely shocked when he told me that his mother was not dating anyone and felt quite isolated. I had no desire to see any man grinning smugly at a family gathering like this, so I chose not to delve into my ex-wife's personal life. They were free to stay at my place as long as they wished. In fact, I preferred that all the children stayed with me instead of at a hotel. "Dad, Mum will be heartbroken because we're all home and she'll have to leave afterward," my son said. Considering his words, I realized this would be our first family gathering since the children had left home and we could all be together again. Ellen belonged here too, so I asked her to stay, but she had to agree that she was the only one not sleeping in her old bedroom. She was shown into the guest room. "Should any of you have guests over, they must stay with you or seek accommodation in a hotel." "Thank you, Dad. This means so much to us," he replied. That year, Christmas occurred on a Saturday, and everyone arrived on Thursday night. My daughter and her fiancé came from Australia, and my son and his girlfriend fetched them from the airport as they journeyed into town from Boston. My youngest, also studying in Boston, accompanied them. Ellen got there about 10 minutes earlier, and I observed her sitting anxiously in her car before the kids arrived. It was touching to watch them all reconnect with embraces and pecks on the cheeks in the front yard. For the first time since I came out of my 3-day gloom, I felt a twinge of regret over the difficulties we had faced. They walked into the front door to a very enthusiastic reception. Neither my daughter nor my former wife had seen the home since its renovation, and it pleasantly surprised them. Nevertheless, I had decorated for Christmas in nearly the same way we always had, with sweets, nutcrackers, and wreaths, though now beside my new furniture. The Christmas tree, decorated with vintage baubles we had gathered from markets or crafted in art classes, was positioned prominently in its regular place. I had installed a fireplace during the living room. Refurbishment and the comforting smell of pine was in the air, enhanced by the aroma of hot cider. There were ample cookies and fudge in every nook, and the dining table was laid with the fancy porcelain that Ellen's grandmother had presented us at our wedding many years ago. There was no doubt I had transformed our house into my home, but clearly it was more than prepared to welcome Christmas with my family. They were indeed still my family, in spite of all that had transpired. The kids, now adults, remained mine, and despite the divorce, my ex-wife continued to hold a significant place in my heart. As they looked around, everyone was charmed by the activity and bustle. I had refurbished the children's bedrooms to resemble their memories, though I had toned down the bright pink in my daughter's room to a more muted pastel shade. I upgraded their old single beds to cozy double beds, aligning the new headboards with the kids' desks and dressers. The spacious guest room was now a studio, outfitted with a drafting table near the window, along with musical instruments, amplifiers, and recording equipment. I had extended one side of the ground floor, transforming a small library into a large room featuring a TV and pool table. The living room now featured a large new fireplace, above which hung fresh Christmas stockings for everyone, including Ellen. The kids noticed the stockings and paused, exchanging playful glances. Suddenly, they shattered the quiet and dashed towards the stockings. As they did, I watched the years fall away from them, and suddenly they were little kids again, plunging into the joy of Christmas. Maturity resumed its elegance when the elders also grabbed their festive stockings and handed them over, whispering distinct memories of childhood that the stockings evoked. It was our task to lovingly prepare small, affordable gifts and treats to fill the stockings before moving on to the main gifts under the tree. Soon they were all tasting cookies and chocolates and trying on silly new socks that were only appropriate for Christmas Day. "But Dad, your stocking is empty. We didn't realize, so we brought nothing," they said. I took a stocking from the fireplace and looked inside. No, you filled it. You were all here sharing memories, laughter. Playing now, you are enriching it with the spirit of Christmas. You fill it with your love. Many embraces and kisses were shared as we all wished each other a Merry Christmas. Ellen stayed in her embrace a bit longer than one might expect from an ex-wife, but not awkwardly, and for a moment it seemed as though we were still one big happy family. The kids realized that there probably were gifts under the tree, and the thrilling sensation of children's Christmas celebrations engulfed them immediately. We exchanged gifts, the feast was sumptuous, and after the dishes were cleared away, the guitars came out, and we had our traditional Christmas celebration. It was already getting late, and we started making our way to our bedrooms. Ellen headed to the hallway closet to pick up her coat. "Thank you for being so kind to me today. I truly value spending Christmas with you and the kids. I know I should hold myself responsible, but out of everything I've relinquished, I miss our family moments the most. Well, the kids are grown now and living independently." "It would be equally rare even if we were still together," she remarked. "I understand, but I also missed our alone time, the kind we used to have. Just you and me," I added. "I suppose what I'm really trying to say is I'm sorry." "I truly spoiled a wonderful existence for us both," she continued. "Don't fault yourself. We always motivated the kids to follow their passions, to find happiness. That's precisely what you did." "We still lead a good life. It's merely different now," I replied. She looked at me incredulously. "Are you implying you have almost no remorse about our past after today? Do you feel any longing? Do you lament what we lost?" she questioned. "Ellen, today was beautiful." "What have we lost?" "We lost each other. I lost you, and I can't forgive myself for that." "Doesn't it bother you?" she sobbed heavily. I held her, and she fell apart completely. I wept when she departed, but it saddened me more that it happened now, on Christmas, when she had finally settled. I reminded her that during our college dating days, that she ended our relationship. She was concerned we were getting serious too early and needed time to decide if she truly wanted to commit her life to just one person. I explained how devastated I was when she left, but that I would never desire to be with someone who wasn't fully committed to me. I said I allowed myself a 3-day grieving period for our marriage and then was ready to move forward with my life. She made today special, and I expressed my gratitude for that. I was composed, and it halted her tears. I offered her to stay the night, set up the bed in the studio, and provided her my t-shirt and robe to wear around the house. After securing the house, I returned upstairs and heard her crying. I doubted she would sleep much, yet I slept profoundly. The next day felt like an extension of Christmas, and Ellen was delighted when we all encouraged her to extend her stay for the weekend. We avoided discussing our past in front of the children, but I caught the meaningful looks Ellen sent my way, reminiscent of when we were married. Her smile seemed to convey, "I love you so much, and you're wonderful." I even responded to some glances with "hug me," and "can I kiss you?" We connected mentally just as we had in our marriage. At breakfast she poured her coffee, and I added the right amount of milk. I was buttering my pancakes and noticed she had topped hers with just the right amount of maple syrup. We finished each other's sentences, yet we slept in separate rooms. The children left together, and my daughter planned to join the boys in Boston before heading to Vermont to ski, leaving Ellen and me alone in the house we once bought together. I lit a fire, and she uncorked a bottle of wine. We sat, talked, reminisced, laughed, then turned serious. "I was so foolish, so wrong, and so cruel. I know I can't make up for it, and I don't expect forgiveness, but I need to say I'm really sorry. I hope we can at least be friends again. You were not just my husband, but also my best friend, my advisor, my most trusted colleague, my partner in crime, and I miss all of it so much," she said, her voice trembling. I looked at her, smiled, and the dam broke. Ellen has a way with words, and she crafted a masterpiece of dialogue. She admitted how she became bored, though now realizes she isolated herself, creating a chasm of passion between us. She described the excitement of encountering a young woodsman and the charm of a hidden affair. She admitted it was easy to paint me as the antagonist, while she herself behaved terribly. Her story was replete with treachery, driven by her rage that I hadn't fought for her, had been apathetic, and had simply released her. She detailed her jealousy of my life as I swiftly moved on and resumed the lifestyle I had before we met, especially when she noticed a young lady occupying her spot on my motorcycle. Her jealousy escalated to fury as she watched me with multiple women, providing something she viewed as better than what she could offer. Her mood plummeted after the divorce finalized, and she learned her boyfriend only pursued married women until they were single, then left them, delighting in using their husband's money. After his traditional father, who vehemently criticized his son's harmful conduct, disowned him and withdrew his trust funds, she perceived no further opportunities. It appeared that all the decent men her age were either unavailable or uninterested in seriously dating a woman who had deceived her faithful first husband. Many men were ready to buy her a drink, dance with her, or sleep with her, but none sought a serious relationship. Younger men were keen to date her, as she was appealing and could be highly seductive, but they were not in search of a long-term commitment with someone experiencing menopause. Starting a family in such circumstances is difficult. I listened to her speak until she was exhausted. I filled 2 glasses of wine and offered her one with a smile. Indeed, based on your account, you were quite imprudent, but you need not apologize to me. As I said, you chased your dreams, and I loved you enough to let you leave. It's unfortunate I don't have a photograph of your expression at that moment. You obviously didn't anticipate my response to be linked to my affection for you. I genuinely forgave you almost instantly. How could I keep you in a marriage when you desired to depart? I couldn't physically restrain you or imprison you in our house. If I forbade you from doing something, you would just hide it from me and carry on. Your words may have seemed stern at first, but upon reflection, I realized they actually preserved order and tidiness. We didn't quarrel over possessions, and we didn't fret about custody as the children grew up. I am thankful for this. Therefore, I am no longer your husband, and it might be some time before you see me as your primary confidant and advisor. Trust remains a challenge for me, but if you want to follow my advice, that role is yours too. Being partners in crime might be a bit too intimate for our current relationship, but perhaps we can just consider ourselves friends. Tears filled her eyes as she fell into my arms. She stayed another night. No, don't think we slept separately. We merely had a lot to discuss. We managed well, sharing the parenting duties again. The next day she went back to get ready for a New Year's camping trip to see her kids in Boston. I had performances all week, which is a lucrative time for musicians. Naturally, focusing on music meant I didn't dwell on Ellen. The academic year started right after New Year's, and my new schedule left me little time to see Ellen. The next time we met was at a conference in April. We sat and had lunch together at a table for 2. We had a pleasant chat and discussed my daughter's upcoming wedding in Australia. It seemed we were reconnecting as friends. At the end of the meal, she expressed gratitude for my kindness today and during Christmas. She was happy we could progress as friends and asked if I would do her a favor. She blushed, chuckled, hesitated slightly, and finally asked if I could take her for a ride on the Harley some weekend. Indeed, I replied effortlessly, proposing Sunday as it's expected to be sunny and picturesque. We aren't busy that day. Let's drive northward, halt for an excellent lunch, and relish some time amidst nature. Her smile was bright and full of happiness. Memories of her on the back of my motorcycle during our younger years came flooding back, with days often culminating in intense moments in the bedroom, fueled by long hours of her arms wrapped around me, her fingers wandering over my chest. Without delving into excessive specifics, she frequently joked about our next motorcycle ride with something substantial and potent beneath her, and the motorcycle was quite satisfactory as well. I doubted my ability to withstand her allure, and indeed I was right. We traveled to the waterfall, where I sensed her fingers exploring as we ascended to its peak and followed a protracted path through the woods down the hill to our motorcycle. We paused in a charming town and ambled through its lanes, exploring the vintage stores. Despite my overall disdain for the day, the time spent with this woman, the woman who had been my partner in life, seeing her as enchanting in every way, were exceptional. The lunch was delightful. Then we headed south again, stopping for a seafood dinner at the tavern on the pier, the setting intimate with candlelight, superb food, and the soft sound of waves against the dock. Boats passing it was indisputably a magnificent dinner. I took her back to my home, to our home, to our home, to my bed. Indeed, this time we became close. It seemed we were assuming the roles of lovers once again. The next week we met for dinner and a movie, and yes, intimacy was rekindled. We also enjoyed several lunches together. We never addressed the direction of our relationship, nor did we contemplate the notion of anything being exceptional. As our daughter's wedding rapidly approached, we meticulously reviewed every detail, and I willingly wrote all the checks without complaint. Our band made a substantial amount at those profitable festivals. We had settled the mortgage while still united, had little credit card debt, and I was fully employed at the top salary level with no dependents to care for. I wasn't exceedingly wealthy, but I was stable with savings accrued. The details we kept to ourselves involved our travel. Plans we made these decisions separately, yet both opted to stay in a hotel with all the other guests. When we shared this information, we discovered we were booked on the same flight. I invited her to join me in the vehicle I had arranged to the airport on departure day. Ellen came early. I had just managed to clean the coffee machine and start the dishwasher with my breakfast dishes when the vehicle pulled up. Our driver took us to Kennedy Airport. We checked our bags and moved to the terminal together. Currently, there are limited direct flights from JFK to Sydney, so the check-in area was relatively quiet, and we joined the queue together. I followed Ellen, and the agent at the desk wondered why I hadn't entered the shorter first-class line. I had secured a first-class ticket given the length of the flight, although typically I choose the least expensive option. Unfamiliar with the benefits that started with swift check-in, the ticket agent chuckled about it. He then pointed me towards the first-class lounge Ellen was waiting, and we went through security to the lounge. At the lounge's check-in, the clerk didn't question her about her ticket but offered, "There's a seat in first class next to yours. Would you like to upgrade?" Feeling a bit nostalgic, I pulled out my credit card and paid for my former wife's comfort. It may appear misguided, but there's an allure to traveling halfway around the world in first class, where the seats turn into beds, to attend my daughter's wedding, whereas she would have been confined in the cabin. When we boarded, I had her wait. She was a bit annoyed, concerned she might have to stand aside, starting to feel anxious. I made it clear that she had been checked in already. Her irritation disappeared, and as she joined me in first class, understanding she deserved it as the bride's mother, her spirits lifted. Our week in Sydney was magical. We explored, saw famous landmarks, and the highlight was sending my daughter off into her new life. Walking her down the aisle with her mother beside me, I felt immense pride in delivering my one line. At the reception, I danced with Ellen, and the standout moment was when her brothers and I performed a lively version of All American Girl as a tribute to our daughter. After the reception, Ellen, the boys, and I gathered in the hotel lobby. One quickly asked, "What's going on with you two?" "Nothing out of the ordinary, dear," Ellen answered. "Your father and I are just your parents. We've moved beyond our past and are enjoying life. Is that all right with you?" "Yes, Mum, it just appears like you two are making up." I'm not unaware. I once behaved impulsively and committed a grave mistake indeed. I was deeply foolish. I acknowledge this and accept the consequences. Your father and I have talked it over, and as we've taught you, I made a decision, left the relationship, and now face the outcomes. The boys turned to me, expecting further explanation, but I simply sat, smiling, sipping a fine local Australian beer. "Come on, Dad," Ellen said, responding for me. "Will we hear from you boys? Understand that we didn't spend a week here exchanging sarcastic, negative comments. I understand this is typical for divorced couples at such events. Also, what you ask is largely a part of my private life and irrelevant. However, Dad, you clearly love Mum. We all notice it. And we're both old enough to understand what it means when a woman prefers to stay just friends. So, without invoking disturbing thoughts or images of your love life, just confirm that you and Mum are more than just friends, son. With our history, if we are friends, it will always be deeper than just friendship. She is the love of my life, the mother of my children, and the best friend I have ever had. It's a part of human nature that cannot be simply switched off. I cannot share more at this time, as this chapter of our lives is still being written. We talked some more, then went up to our rooms. I had just changed into my pajamas when Ellen knocked on the door. I let her in, and we headed to bed. She thanked me for the room upgrade before I could even catch my breath. She thanked me for a wonderful week, and then expressed her gratitude for making our daughter's wedding an event we attended together. I was exhausted, yet I accepted her gratitude as she reflected on what I had said to the boys earlier. She stayed for breakfast, which I ordered to my room. Our journey back was pleasant. We arrived at my place, and before she left, she gave me a passionate kiss. I'm here for you, for whatever you need, whenever you need it. At some point, I forgot why I loved you. Amidst the routine of adulthood, I lost sight of my deep affection for you. Leaving you was the biggest mistake I could have made. I let go of the most important thing I ever had, and hurting you will always be my greatest regret. I wish I could turn back time. Whether you need a friend to play tennis, someone to cheer at a concert, or a lover, call me. Having a tough night? Yell at me, make. Love, I'm here. Need someone to cook? I'll cook. I'll clean, fold your laundry, wash your dishes and windows. I won't expect exclusivity, knowing I've forfeited that right. But if you ever decide, the answer will be yes, boyfriend, girlfriend, lover, spouse, just ask. Thank you for being so wonderful. You've been incredible, and should you ever live with someone else, rely on me to tell her what she's getting into, and she better treat you well, or I'll be waiting. That's extremely thoughtful of you, Ellen. I was delighted that we had the opportunity to reconnect. I'm just not sure I'm ready to label what we are. I'm uncertain about our direction. I'm simply content that we're sharing this path, at least sometimes. I have spent my entire life living with women, often following their directives, starting with my mother and sister, and soon after college, marrying you. I enjoy being in a home where I choose the colors and the amount of clutter. I take pleasure in cooking my meals precisely to my liking and keeping a refrigerator filled with my preferred foods. Participating in a band is fulfilling, and I confess, enjoying a life with an open bed was pleasant. I have no intentions of altering this in the near future. Do you recall the note I penned in reply to your letter? Indeed, you acknowledged that I was correct, expressed your thanks, and bid me goodbye. You didn't even conclude with love. I meant each word of that note. You were correct, we were worn out and in need of a change. The expressions of gratitude and goodbye were sincere. Any mention of love would have been irrelevant and superficial. Anything additional, I might say, would either come across as cruel or portray me as a pleading, whining weakling. I'm not particularly adept at any of this, so I wrote what needed to be said and stopped. What should I write now, Tom? Nothing. I have shown you all you need to know. Clearly, you showed that you care. You indicated that you still find me attractive, even beautiful. You demonstrated your desire for me, your commitment to stand by me about children. You showed that you love me more than just casually, enough to share meals and breakfast together. You appreciate my company enough to take me on dates. Oh, why? You respect me and our history enough to prioritize me, pay for our daughter's wedding in full without requesting anything from me, and tell our sons that I am the love of your life. The only thing missing is a more fulfilling role as your wife. I want you to understand that I see this and will not pressure you about it. I acknowledge my mistake in messing up, but know that if you ever propose again, my answer will be yes, and I will pray daily for the chance to say it. She kissed me goodnight. Naturally, I considered her words, but really, why settle for one woman? I had the world at my disposal, my own home, grown children, financial security, an eager ex-wife willing to reconcile, who would do anything anytime, a fit physique, all my hair, a mix of a popular band and a Harley, and a steady stream of women ready to jump on my bike and join the party, and be intimate with me afterward. Indeed, I valued Ellen enough to consider her as a companion for my golden years. Maybe I'll think it over when we're 60, but not yet. I didn't write Dear Jeff, so I didn't feel responsible for the consequences. I forgave her, made peace with her, and organized my life. Thus, I contacted that bold blonde who had joined me on a Harley after the street festival and became my first entertainment post-divorce. She laughed over the phone when I asked if she really meant never to answer my calls again. She confirmed she was fine and on her feet again and invited me to come over immediately. As I rode the Harley to her house, I knew that one day I might ask Ellen to marry me again, but today was not that day. What do you think of our story today? It seems to me that a spouse should not have left her partner the first time she became bored or for any other reason. They should have at least shared their feelings together. What's your perspective? Write in the comments. See you in the next video.